Well, hello and welcome to another episode of My Friend Ben.
Yeah,
I feel weird saying that.
It's
You intro the
us.
podcast?
We're back. Okay, I'm Taryn, and this is my friend Ben.
Hi, I'm her friend Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Is that-
Hi, everyone.
Is that what we do now? That's our intro.
Hi, everyone.
Spiel.
Yeah,
if you will.
we'll come up with something better. If you have suggestions, then make them known.
From there.
So we're back with another episode.
So yeah, welcome back to My Friend Ben.
Yeah, and
This is Taryn. I'm Ben.
Right. This is my friend Ben.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
You tired of that spiel yet? Spiel.
Not yet.
Spiel.
Wait,
I'm gonna do it again.
why?
Same
Oh my
joke.
gosh. Oh
Good
my
jokes.
gosh.
Good jokes. Anyway,
They need to send you a check. Anyway. Okay.
I would like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, welcome back. We decided this past week, since as we've started having conversations about movies, that Taryn watches a lot of movies that I don't watch,
Yeah.
and I watch a lot of movies that she doesn't watch,
Right.
and we very much stick to our culture, even unintentionally, probably
Yeah.
most of the time. We just go see movies that
Would
that
just
look
see.
good to us,
I
look
don't know,
good to
yeah.
us.
Or people that look like us are in the movies. Ryan Gosling.
Normally, yeah. So this week we decided to make each other watch a movie that I normally wouldn't go see.
Right.
So I made Taryn go see The Nice Guys.
Yes.
And she
AKA
made me-
Ryan Gosling.
Yes, and she made me go see Barbershop, The Next Cut, aka Ice Cube. So,
Yeah. Okay.
And Common, and
Yeah,
Nicki
and Nicki
Minaj,
Minaj and
Eve,
yeah, a bunch of
and JB
people
Smooth.
who used to sing, and I feel like everyone in that movie used to do something else. Like, cause I feel like does JB Smooth even do stand up anymore? I
I
feel like
have
he's
no
just
idea.
on TV all the time.
Yeah.
So and like Eve, she's too busy running around with her British millionaire boyfriend,
Oh,
husband.
yeah.
Wait, they're married.
I honestly didn't even know who Eve was before that movie started. Now I know who Eve is.
millennials. Oh.
Anyways.
She used to be so big. Are you
I
kidding
don't
me?
know.
Okay.
Anyways,
Right.
so I went to see The Barbershop, and I got all of the references. I understood all the jokes. I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, but I really liked the
I
movie.
wasn't there to prove, to really verify this, so I'm just gonna take your word for it.
I really did. I mean, I would tell you. I was looking for. I was like trying to pay attention to find all the references
Yeah.
I didn't understand because I
Yeah.
figured that would make great podcast material. If I said,
Aw.
"Hey, Taryn, I don't get this. What does this mean?"
Right.
But I understood all the references.
Okay.
So that was cool. I guess.
Yeah.
I am
No, it's
more
pretty poppy. It's a
attuned.
pretty
That's true.
mainstream movie.
So
too.
that's what I was trying to figure out. But we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
So I went to see it and I really loved it, and we had a conversation about this earlier before we started rolling, and then again when we did start rolling, but we actually weren't rolling. So now let's actually talk about it. But I really thought that Barbershop and Chirac are about the same thing, and
Right.
I can compare and contrast them.
Right. And
Pretty
I feel
easily.
like they're both fruits, but one's an apple, one's an orange.
Right, but they're
So
both
set
about
in the
Chicago
same
gang violence.
place.
No, they're not only set in the same place, they're about the same thing.
In the same type of situation.
The conflict in both movies is
About Chicago.
stop the Chicago gang violence, and how do we do that? The movies were two different ways to have that conversation.
Kind
Spike Lee's
of.
is much angrier and much more frantic,
Yeah.
and Malcolm D. Lee's was very much like, it felt like I was watching a stage play.
yeah.
I mean, there was not a lot of like crazy camera movements, not a lot of crazy
No.
set pieces. I mean, the camera was still the whole time,
Yeah.
and it just cut back and forth and they would literally
Right.
come out to the center of the barbershop when they had their like monologue.
Yeah, they really
I
did,
was
yeah.
watching, and like most of the movie took place in that barbershop.
No,
and
it
there was a
did.
couple of
It's
cutaways
easy,
on the
yeah.
outside and in the backyard and inside the houses.
And it was shot in Atlanta.
It's-
So I don't know how much of that was shot in
I
Chicago,
didn't
because
realize
most of
that.
it was shot here, yeah. It was shot here.
So Atlanta, yeah.
Like last summer, I think.
Okay, yeah. So I feel like I was watching a stage play. So there were very different takes on the same thing, but it was still centered around the same conversation of how do we stop Chicago gang violence and what can we do? How can we be a part of the solution?
Yes, yes, I agree thematically to a degree. I guess I felt like with Barbershop though, like it was just a timely setting because again it's the fourth. Like I watched the first one.
Right.
And so actually like for me, this is the fourth, right? So it's like Barbershop just talks about whatever's going on in the black community at that time. So to me, yes, because that's what's going on right now. Like it's like constantly coming up, right? Like inner
Right.
city violence. Chicago's a really big city. They could have said it in Baltimore, but I mean it's already set, in a certain place, right?
Right.
So then it's like, well, they're fixed to the place. So then they're going to be like, okay, well, let's talk about how out of control things have gotten as like a part of the storyline.
Okay.
But ultimately, it's also about like because again, the characters, you didn't think how old the other film was. So it's about like Ice Cube, who's like a little bit older than me, having like a teenage kid. It's about them being old too, in a way.
It's true.
Like, so as like part of the continuum, I was just like, okay, well, it was just very timely, and so they were able to weave that into the story of them getting older and like having to deal with kids, and then so and so's actually married now, you know, and then it's like the other woman. So I just saw it as an extension. Yeah, I just saw it as an extension.
So.
Yeah, I just saw it as an extension of like them all being a little bit older, like what's happened in this decade, like this time. And so it's like, okay, I just saw it as being like very more timely. But no, they both deal with it, but in different ways. But like Barbershop is like so soft and fun, and like, oh, it works out really well. Everything works out really well.
Yeah, it is. You leave, everything's happy. It's like I said, the tones of both movies were very different, but they were about the same thing, which is why they're both apples, though.
Which is why they're both fruit.
They're both apples, though.
Oranges are bitter, so that would be Chirac, and apples are sweet, and that would be Barbershop.
Okay, so I did like both of them. But I liked both of them, I think, because of the conversation they were having.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked that they were talking about these things that are important, and they're not escapist.
Yeah. Yeah, not really.
They're not escapist. Peter Travers called Barbershop the Next Cut, and pretty good for an escapist romp. But I didn't think, A, it was a romp, or it was escapist. Like it's a lot, it's very human. So I mean the movie is, there's this crazy intense stuff happening literally outside their front door, but they're still making jokes. Because that's what humans do. That's what we do. Like when things are really bad, comedy exists as like a release of that tension. And so it's a very like human movie. Whereas Chirac like takes the tension and ramps it up to 1,000.
Yeah, because it's weekly.
For their own, like, to point the finger at the tension. Like, to say, oh, look how crazy this is, and now let's do an absurd thing to try and figure out how to fix the problem.
Right.
And by doing so, let's, like, revamp an old
It's like play. You described what Spike Lee was trying to do.
But you didn't finish the movie, so you don't even know.
I don't think he made it. I don't think you can fall that hard that early and still make it out. But I will go back and watch it, so trust me.
She keeps saying that. Podcast, however, it's yet to happen.
In a future podcast, I'll bring up that I suffered through. I'm going to do it for the fans. Yeah.
So I really enjoyed the movie, and I really liked that aspect of the movie. I was talking, a couple of other things. I was talking to David. David's my roommate. I was talking to him earlier.
He's also a film guy. So.
Yeah, I was talking to him earlier today about the movie and trying to explain it to him. And so when I go see a movie like The Nice Guys, because I'm in that culture the movie is for, I know what type of people within that culture, like what subculture it's for. So when I went to see Barbershop yesterday, I was trying to figure out like who's the audience and what kind of person in black culture would go see this movie.
Yeah, pretty much everybody young and hip.
Okay. So, because I was wondering, because the people are a little older, and it is a movie that's now 12 years the sequel of the original. Yeah. But a lot of the things they were talking about.
I include middle class people.
But all the things they were talking about were like, they were talking about things that are in the news, things that are like current events.
Right.
And so I didn't know, like, if, I guess some of our mass market fodder, like Marvel movies, they don't really do that. Like, you're not really caring.
Marvel movies don't do anything. But yes.
Right, but that's what I was trying to make the comparison to. Because I don't think it's just popcorn fodder. Is it just popcorn fodder?
No, see, this is the thing. But as you watch more black films, you'll see this. So, like, Tyler Perry, for all the fuss, the reason why black people go see Tyler Perry's films is because they're made for black people.
Right.
So, like, Barbershop was also made for black people. Other people can get it, like, because it's funny and it's light, but, like, they wrote it for black people. So, I don't know how to explain it. So, like, people go. I've been to more Tyler Perry films than I needed to, because some of them were not good. Love You, did not love the movie. Literally, it was like, bruh. Like, people were on set like, nah, I don't know how they're gonna edit this. Like, seriously, it was a couple of them were really rough. But people continue to go, even though they're low budget, because it, like, speaks to family situations, like, it speaks to the culture, right? So, like, if you're not in the culture, you're just like, it's kind of like when you watch Indian films, if you're not Indian, unless you really like them, because I really do, and I don't care, I put up with a lot. But, like, you'd be like, why are they doing this? And why is this a big deal? And why do people like this? But, like, I don't know why I get it, kind of, for some reason. But, yeah, so it's that. And so I think with Barbershop, like, they know it's going to be, you know, the teenagers are going to come out. but then the dude's Ice Cube's age are gonna come out.
Okay.
People are gonna come out on the dates, and
Right.
so it's specifically like it was slightly intergenerational. I mean, Cedric the Entertainer's not as old as the character he's portraying,
Right.
and some people will bring
the
their
makeup
mom.
was not
Right. It was.
Their makeup was not.
It was pretty sad. They were like, they can't afford an extra person for that, for one old guy.
Right.
So, but I think, you know, some moms, some dads will come out, right? So it's like an intergenerational film, and you've got the teenager, and so that is actually a lot of Bollywood films are like that. Like, you'll have the intergenerational, and then each generation is kind of talking about their point of view.
Right.
So then it's like, I don't know. So it's supposed to address all of them. It's supposed to address the badass teenagers who are like out there acting crazy when you have two parents in the house.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? That's ridiculous,
Right.
you know? So it's like addressing all of those different, like, people.
Right.
And
Well, the question I'm trying to get at is,
Yeah, I
so
don't know what
as
it is.
being in the dominant culture,
yeah.
and looking at a movie, there are movies that I look at and I'm like, I have no desire to see that movie, even though it's geared toward like my people
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
my culture.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this isn't going to do anything for me. I have no desire
Give
to
an
see it.
example.
So, like the newest Marvel movie, like I have
Okay, yeah.
zero desire. Batman versus Superman. I have no desire to see that
Okay.
movie. I have no desire to see Captain America: Civil War. I just
So
don't
you're not a
care
comic book
anymore.
person. Okay.
I'm not. I never
Yeah.
was, but like I enjoyed the spectacle of it.
Yeah.
But because I don't like escapist movies as much, like I don't paying $15 to go sit down and just be entertained for 2 hours and
With a
leave
bunch of CGI.
and have nothing
fighting
to like
CGI.
talk about afterwards. Like
Okay.
that just is not me.
Yeah.
Like that just doesn't appeal to me because I'm a part of this subculture
Mhm.
of who the film is geared towards that like will not like that. But if
Okay.
a different movie like Everybody Wants Some just came out, which is Richard
Okay.
Linklater's movie. Like,
Yeah.
that is just like that's not the
Yeah.
general white person's not going to enjoy that movie.
No. It's a small film.
It's
yeah,
a small.
really
So like, so I'm just trying. I was trying to figure out what Barbershop was for that, but it might like because it's not the dominant culture in general.
Yeah.
Like, does that exist?
No,
Does
that's a
subcategories
big black
exist?
film. Yeah, no, that's the
Okay.
one where it's like everyone's gonna go. So
Okay.
that's why it's so soft. That's why it doesn't delve too much into any one thing that would
Right.
appeal to a certain generation.
Right.
Because
Okay.
that's a big black film, and they know like that's why they have all the pop stars that everyone knows their name.
Right.
That's why they have the Common and Nicki Minaj, and that's why they're
Right.
gonna pull in people that like everyone's gonna know their name because then they know other people will come as well.
Right.
As
Okay.
opposed to
Okay.
which talk about your viewing experience. What were those trailers like? We talked about this by text, and you're like, well, the trailers are totally
Yeah.
different.
From moment one being in the theater, I was the first person in the theater. First of all.
Such a movie nerd.
So I
Who does
love getting
that?
to the movie before the actual show time is because I want to see all the trailers.
Yeah.
I remember this time yesterday I was running late because I was coming from
Yeah.
another meeting and this movie started at 10:05 and I'm like hauling across town
Okay.
trying to get there to Atlantic Station before the movie starts and I
Okay.
get there like 10:03 and then the stupid lady at the ticket counter is having trouble. She's on the phone with somebody. I'm just like, I need to go, but it's 10 o'clock. I understand you don't really care about anything.
Right.
And so then
she
I
was
get
calling her ride, like,
right. So
oh, no.
so I get my ticket finally, and I run up the stairs. And I get in, and I'm the only person in the theater. And it's halfway through maybe the first trailer
Yeah.
because I had to go to the bathroom before because I'm not walking out of a movie once it starts.
No, I'm not about that
cannot
life.
do that.
Unless it sucks.
Right.
I'll give you my
like
list
Great
later.
Gatsby, Boss Lerman. Anyway, I almost walked out.
I'm gonna let that go so that we can continue the podcast.
So
right
anyway, I knew that was gonna get a rise. Anyway, but it's true. I almost walked out of the movie. Regardless, I got there and I got halfway through the first trailer maybe, and from moment one I was like, "Wow, this film is not."
Do you remember what they
marketed
were for?
Toward me, I don't remember what it was called. No, it was called "When the Bow Breaks."
Oh my gosh, that movie freaked me out though. That was like the horror thing
Yeah,
with the like
but
surrogate.
The
okay.
first like minute and a half of the trailer, I didn't know it was gonna be a horror movie.
No one did.
I don't even know if it is. Is it a horror movie?
It was so frightening. Like, okay, because we'll talk about this with the next movie about like gender and like violence. All I know is we saw that trailer. It was like me and three other girls. We were just like, oh my god.
I mean,
Oh
it was
my
like
God.
I was like, oh, this is a guy who's married and they can't have kids, so they get a surrogate, and then she lives in the house with them. So I'm like, oh, okay, the conflict is
I saw that
she's coming on to
No,
him,
I already knew it was gonna get
and
bad.
like they like are gonna have to try and not have an affair essentially,
Yeah.
which is what I thought the movie was. And then she goes crazy and goes run off with her boyfriend in jail. So all of these things are not like I have no concept of culturally
Yeah.
like what this is.
That's not the first movie with a scary surrogate, but that's obviously targeted very
Right.
much towards women because that's
Right.
like a Lifetime movie with just a bigger budget.
Right. So yeah, that one was crazy.
That was ridiculous, yeah.
And then the other movie, what was the one after that? I don't remember because I was,
Or just
which
what
I
it was
hate
about?
doing because
Yeah.
I was texting during
Oh,
the movie,
okay.
both you and my fiance.
Aw.
And so, because I had been like MIA for 3 hours and no one had heard from me, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I don't remember what the second trailer was about, but the last one was Birth of a Nation, the movie about Matt
Yeah,
Turner.
and I was just like, yeah,
Which
that's
that
stressful.
movie looks awesome to me. That's
Right.
everything that I love
You would
about
like
movies.
that.
That's,
It's very
that's
indie.
my movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it won Sundance, and it won the Audience Award at Sundance. And it
Okay.
actually, David was telling me earlier that it is the largest all-time acquisition for a Sundance movie.
Really?
$17 million Fox Searchlight paid.
That's
To
crazy.
be able to distribute that movie.
Wow, I'm
So
surprised.
apparently they think it's going to do well.
I guess so.
And I think it'll do well, but I know I'm the type of person who's going to go see
And
that
I
movie.
think
And the people
it's
who,
gonna get Oscars. I don't know
right,
if it's
the
gonna do
movies that,
well.
Right, yeah, that's what I was
Quote
saying.
unquote. Yeah. Like box office wise, I think it'll be okay. Obviously, they're gonna make the money back, right? They know they're gonna get more
Right.
than 17 mil, so that's
Right.
why they paid it. But yeah, I don't.
I mean, I will go see that movie.
If it breaks 100 mil, that would be like the miracle of the year. I see
Yeah,
something like
that's
that
true.
probably will only make like 70 mil at most.
Right.
So. Yeah.
So yeah, that was the last one, and then the movie started, and I enjoyed my time watching
So
it.
they
It
didn't
was
show
really
the trailer for the movie with Barack and Michelle Obama when they were still in Chicago?
great. No.
Because it's John Legend produced it, and I'm surprised they didn't show that one.
Maybe
I'll
it
listen.
happened before. Maybe I walked in on the second
Maybe
trailer.
it's a really small film, and it's like an entire film about their first date.
Is it a documentary?
No, it's just like so they reenacted their first date,
Oh, wow.
and so it's like 2 actors, and it's just them in Chicago, and it's like. So Michelle, was like supervising him. I don't know if he was an intern or just like a beginning lawyer at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he asked her out, and he has this like crappy car because he's working as like a political like community activist or something.
Yeah.
And so he picks her up in this crappy car, and then she's like, don't get too comfortable, because I can't just be dating the first black guy that comes to the office.
Oh my
Like, it's cute. Like it's just them in
Yeah.
Chicago and like them and their dreams, and it looked really adorable.
That's cool.
But it's a really small film. Yeah, I don't know if John Legend picked it up or if he ended up, executive producing as in like paying money for it,
Right.
given the cash. But they've been showing that obviously it's very black. It's two
Right.
black people
Right.
in Chicago, so
Right.
that's why I'm surprised. I wasn't sure like if they.
Yeah,
showed
that
it
sounds like the
before
perfect
that.
movie to
So,
play before
Right.
Barbershop the next cut.
Yeah.
But maybe it happened before I got there. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting.
Or the budget's too small to show in front of a movie with that big of a budget. I don't know. Like, there's no main people in the movie.
Right.
But I mean, it is about Barack,
Yeah.
First Lady President.
Yes.
First Lady.
The
Barack
guy
Obama.
doesn't look familiar, but the chick has been in like some Tyler Perry stuff and like another movie. So I've
Okay.
seen her face before, and then John Legend produced it.
Yeah.
So they're like pushing it as
Right.
like John Legend, and I'm like, he's not a movie producer. Slow your roll. Like
Right.
I'm like
He
cool,
is a
but
music
yeah, I'm
producer,
like.
or just artist actually. He's
Right.
He's a producer in music, is he?
Yeah, that's how he started, was a songwriter and producer. But then he
right.
started
Oh, he was
singing his
also-
own stuff.
oh,
He
okay,
wrote for a
gotcha.
ton of people
Oh,
first.
gotcha,
Why do I know that? Yeah, random trivia. Okay.
So there's one other thing I wanted to talk about with this movie.
Oh.
So I thought it very interesting that, so there's one section of the movie where, I mean, they talk about all of politics, and they're talking about in the movie, it's understood that everyone there's a Democrat. Except for the one Indian
Except for
guy.
the Indian
Except, so
guy.
there's an Indian guy now who works there
I
and
love
is
it.
cutting
Yeah.
hair.
Yeah.
And so he gets on the soapbox. He goes to the middle of the
He
barbershop.
really does get on
and
the
does
soapbox,
his-
literally.
He doesn't.
No, but it feels like it.
Yeah, it
Because
feels
I was
like
just
it.
like, wait, I'm waiting for him to like.
But he
step up.
goes,
I'm
he
like,
goes, and he's like, guys, you don't have an excuse. Like, you're in America. You're in the
Yeah.
greatest country in the world. Like, you can do anything. You can
Yeah.
pull yourself up. You have so many opportunities. My parents came here from India, couldn't even speak
That little
English,
speech.
and I'm
That
here,
little
and they're all
speech.
just looking at him like.
I know, and I loved that they booed him because I was like, please boo him.
Right,
Please
but-
boo him.
But even like the movie didn't even condemn that though.
No, I
and
know.
that's the thing. And so they're like, well, the playing field isn't equal. You
Right.
Indian and me black person, like it's not the same
Yeah.
because you were immigrated here, we were imported, which
Right.
I'd never heard that.
Yeah.
Like those words. I liked that, but
It's pretty succinct.
they were like, the biggest hindrance to that equality was this
Yeah.
thing called slavery, and
Yeah.
and they go into that, but really the entire movie, even as they start the rising action of like what the movie's going to be about
Right. Yeah.
putting it into Chicago
Yeah.
gang violence and like how they can stop that, like all of it was, we can't rely on the government to help. They even have
Yeah.
a person from the government come and help them, and they're like, we can't trust him to do what we need to do.
Yeah.
It's about small business. It's about the barbershop.
Right.
It's about opportunities and
Yeah.
grassroots campaigning and doing things on your own,
Yeah.
which was so weird to me because the movie was so Republican. It was so Republican, but
Oh,
everyone,
no.
Because that's what they want. Like, they want small government. They want the government to be out so that small businesses can thrive, so that communities do what they need to do because they know best about what the community needs more than the government does.
Okay, but I feel like that's a young perspective on it, though. Because actually, that felt really retro to me. Like, what they're saying felt really retro.
Like old school Democrat?
No, like old school as in like people my parents' age, and my parents are older than you, potentially older than your parents, because I'm older than you by like a good decade to change. So like, but during the civil rights movement, it's very interesting because one of the arguments against racial integration was that people were worried that the community businesses, that it was going to actually be a detriment to having like healthy black businesses, proper education, not that the kids had a lot. And by that, that's a whole other conversation because education is such a whatever. Right. But they're worried about the deconstruction, so people were like, well, you know, anything that needs to happen in the community, we actually need to do it. And we need to, like, not just because the government won't do it properly, because the government never does things properly, truly, anyway, right? But also because it's like the people who live in a certain place know what that place needs, right? So it's kind of that idea. I felt that was kind of retro. I know that's kind of funny that I was like, oh, wow, I wouldn't even have thought of it in like a Republican way, but I feel like that was very retro though, because that was like previous generations, the generation that Cedric the Entertainer is supposed to represent. That was a big thing where it was just like, there were a lot of things about like self-reliance, and there was a lot of writing actually about that in especially the 50s. But even in the early 60s as well. So there were a lot of like nonprofit organizations that were just focused on that. They were really limited, obviously. Like their access was limited. And so I think, with the Indian kid's speech, the last thing he said, he was like, look, all I'm saying is there's never been a better time in America to be black. And it's like, that's kind of sad in a way, but because you're like, because people are still getting straight up shot for no reason. But yeah, no, he's totally right. But he is right. And so but I felt it was more retro. But that's interesting that you saw an alignment with that, because
even in Ice Cube's dilemma, Ice Cube's character Calvin's dilemma is like this is a dangerous area.
Right.
My kid is not safe here.
Right.
I want to take him out of this situation in the public school system that's deteriorated around me, and I want to take him to Catholic school. And I was like, wait, is this a white movie that I'm watching? That's such a thing that happened, literally. And we took our kids and we put them in private schools because it was safer and because we could send them in schools that were better. And so you see the community or the principal of the school saying, no, like he needs to be here. He needs to be in the community because we need you. We need parents who care about students to be in this school system. And Ice Cube Calvin says, like, why should I sacrifice my only son for this system? Like, it doesn't seem just. And so then he's trying to move the barbershop to a safer part of town, and it eventually not happening. So then there is some Democrat in the movie too. But like his
it's an election year, clearly.
Yeah, it's just such an I just felt. I don't know how to explain that, but that was very much the white struggle with even in the movie.
Yeah, we'll see, and I feel like we'll see, and that's every middle-class black women's struggle, though.
That's true.
That's every decision, and so again, that was what I'm saying. Like with integration, one of the bad things that happened was that it broke up. Like people's first thought was like, "Hey, I want to go see what white people have," even if it was not for pernicious reasons, right? Just out of curiosity, like I'm gonna go live somewhere else. But what that did, it really left a void. Because it's everywhere. People who have mobility can go places. They go to one neighborhood, they don't like it, they go to another neighborhood, right? So whereas before it was like the doctors and lawyers, like Morehouse University, Meharry University in Tennessee was like a black medical school. Morehouse has a black medical school. So it was like everybody went back where they came from and like took care of the people in their communities. Mobility, the weirdest thing about that is like, I mean, you don't want to feel that you're being deprived. You don't want to feel necessarily, but there is a sense of social responsibility, and everyone's like, how much do I have to sacrifice to be socially responsible? And that's a really tough question.
It is.
Right?
But the answer is everything.
Yeah, I don't know, because I mean, I'm making that decision right now, right? Like house shopping, and I don't want to get 2 Rottweilers. But I mean, there's some neighborhoods with lovely architecture in which I can live that are in my price point that I would kind of feel like I need to have 2 Rottweilers. So, those are constant decisions I think that each of us have to make, even just with public school, because I'm definitely, God bless public school, but I'm not a particular advocate of it. I'm all about Christian school. I want my children to grow up sheltered and warped, as I did.
Are you being serious right now?
No, I'm really pro like Christian school, but I was a bit warped by it. I was quite warped. But you know what though? I was like 2 grade levels above reading. You know what I'm saying? Like, so my academics were like on point.
I mean, I went to public school, and I know that I was fortunate to go to a really, really great public school. I mean, the public school I went to, for an example, all the history teachers were history teachers first and coaches second. I mean, we had the only World War II class east of the Mississippi, and we had the only Vietnam War class.
Why do you
because it was novel. Like, we had the only Vietnam War class in the entire country. No, it was in the paper. Like, it was a big deal. Our history professors cared about history, and they taught history, and they really cared about us learning it. And so I know that I had a really unique public school experience. But I know, like, my fiance is going to be, she's a teacher, and we have this conversation all the time too. She wants to teach in the public school system. We've talked about where, if we have, when we have kids eventually, like, what we will do, and we want to put our kids in the public school system as well because of that. Like, and that, I think that scene in the movie echoes that, and it says, like, do you want, like, we need you here. You are parents who care about your student. You're gonna care about them anyway, but the collective community will benefit for those students who don't have parents who care for them. Like,
that is beautifully democratic. I'm not about that life.
And so I think that's so important because I think the community is more important than me, and more important than my family, and more important than like my own children. I'm gonna care about my kid's education, no matter where he goes to school. I'm gonna teach him things in the home that he's not gonna learn at school anyway. And so, it doesn't really matter to me that much where he's in school. I want him to meet kids from the community at public school. I want him to be around people who aren't like him at public school, so he can have a cultural perspective that I didn't have even as a public school
Well, see, then I guess I feel like too, I'm like, my kids don't need that. They won't. The thing is, it's funny because we went to Christian school, we weren't sheltered. Because you're not necessarily in my, I don't know what your extended family's like. My extended family, that was education. That's where we got our education. Where all my cousins were just like, y'all do what? Y'all don't do this? Like, y'all, you know, I love y'all, fam. I remember finally getting to go somewhere and go dance with my cousins. They were like, y'all dance? And I was like, I don't know. I've never tried. It was like a bad movie. It really was. It was like, I've never tried. You know, like in middle school, like, I've never attempted to, you know, I went to like a super white Baptist school. No offense, white Baptist.
That's me. I was a white Baptist. I mean, literally, we can't, if you have a wedding at our church that I grew up in, you cannot dance at your reception if you have a wedding there.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
It's ridiculous. So it's just like, it never occurred to me. It's like, it never occurred to me to like put on some music and dance around. It's like, and my parents aren't really like, we're kind of boring. So it's just funny. So it was the exact opposite. I think my parents were like overreacting. Maybe like some of the characters in the movie, like, we want to make sure our kids are like protected from stuff. Like, we don't care if we send them to like an elementary school where the people's theology says that our children are cursed. You know, we just really like, we just want them to get that education and not, you know, have to worry about a lot of stuff. And then when I did transition into public school, it was really a shock. So I was like totally like, these children are disorderly. Like,
they are.
I was like, and how come y'all still can't add and subtract? Like, it was pretty shocking.
Well, I also get that it comes from a really privileged position for me and my fiance to even be able to have that conversation. To say like, oh, because of the culture we're in and the way we were raised with a family unit intact, like, we can choose to step into this place where it doesn't really exist because we had it and we know how to give it on our own. And so we know the importance of surrounding ourselves with community who can also help provide for us in that way. So like, it's definitely, I'm aware of the privileged nature with which I even have this conversation.
And I think it's about balance too, though, right? I mean, because it's that same thing. It's like, okay, well, especially if I were to choose to live in a particular neighborhood, again, the whole Rottweilers thing, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to be really selective about the school, because it's like, you know, I don't know, you just have to balance things out, I guess. And so, but I'm a really big advocate for like awesome education, and I really didn't like school, so I also would be really open to my kids like kind of being like, I don't want to go. It's like, okay, what's your game plan? Let's talk about it. I wanted to leave school at 16 and just get a GED, and my mother like fought me tooth and nail about that.
What do you want to do with that?
I was just like, yo, I'm going to college. I'm going to go to community college. I don't want to be here anymore. This is a waste of my time. And I still, to this day, maintain that high school was mostly a waste of my time. I probably could have started taking college classes around like 14, actually, just because of the way, you know, the way we'd studied, and like I was a little bit ahead. So I don't know, like, I guess I'm really individualistic too. Like, I took the Strength Finders test, and like individualism was like one of my top 5. I think it was like number 1 or 2. So
I'm the opposite in every
see, right? Because you're all about like community and like, Yeah.
woo positivity. Those
So
are my
I'm
fives.
just kind of like, well, I wish I had been given a little more space to just kind of like carve my own path. And like,
Right.
yeah, I'm like at the early levels, I feel like, you know, really good foundation, really good preschools, really good elementary. And then, yeah, if my kid was like, yo, I'm stifled and I want to go to public school, I'd probably be like, yeah, okay, you can do that. You know, it's not like I'm going to hold it over them, but I just want them to get their phonics in. Phonics are important. This is why kids can't read. Everybody needs phonics. I'm telling you.
Phonics, hooked on phonics.
I'm telling you, like I learned to read by
Hooked on
phonics.
phonics.
I learned to read by phonics. I had
Phonics.
amazing spelling. It's English. This is why we suffer. Because of the French. English major. Do you understand? When the French conquered the English, this is why they had such low self-esteem about their language. There was no like academic writing in English for like, even after the French left. It was like another like maybe 200 years that they just felt that English was not worthy of like any important writing being in English. It was really bad, yeah. So like all the important things were in French, and that's why we have all this awful spelling, all these awful words with too many letters.
Look at that. And
Yeah.
now we're the universal language.
I mean, I'm telling you, and then we still have these crappy spellings.
That's
Thank you,
terrible.
French people.
Right.
So
like fruit and good, why do they rhyme?
Yeah, and it's like,
I don't
why
know.
do we have? Why don't we just eat the cow and the pig? No, we have lamb. We have beef.
Right.
Thank you, French people, making stuff complicated that ain't complicated. But yeah, so it's interesting. Like it was just anyway about being conquered in language and written and unwritten languages, which is why Gaelic never took off because it was never written down.
Right.
So anyway,
Interesting.
as a
Except-
bizarre aside. So.
Yeah. My mom's maiden name is Gaelic from South,
Is it?
lowlands of Scotland. So,
Okay.
I mean, I looked up the origin today for some reason. I was curious
Just
about
today,
it.
just in time for this conversation.
Yeah, I didn't even know. Look, it was preparing me. But yeah, it's from Landrum is the name.
Okay.
And it's Gaelic in origin. But it was never really written down, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
it was like Lindrum and now it's Landrum, so it's a different variation.
Is that weird too? Yeah, my name I guess comes from Tara. I looked that up, the origin. So Taryn is also like somewhat Gaelic in
Gotcha.
origin.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Look at that. Common ancestry.
I was like, probably. I'm a Blake, so
Just kidding. Right.
who knows?
Well, I'm a Smith, so I'm related to everyone.
Right. Okay. That's kind of sad in a way too.
Yeah, but I mean Ben Smith. So I just have to make my personality stand out so people remember me.
This is true. Yeah,
That's what I
because you
do.
could
That's
disappear.
literally my life.
You could otherwise disappear into the masses.
I've never had a substitute teacher mispronounce my name. I never had like anyone be confused when I say,
That's
"Oh, my
so
name's
true.
Ben Smith." Although sometimes I mumble, and so they say, "Oh, Dan." Oh, Bill.
Wait, Ben? Is it
Bill's-
like Dan?
No, Ben. Ben Smith.
I feel like some people just can't hear though.
That, well, I also mumble. I know. I'm aware that.
Yeah, no, I drop off
We'll
at the end
probably
of my
have comments
sentences.
somewhere that say,
Yeah.
"Why is that guy mumbling all the time?"
Yeah, I talk too fast
That's
and then I
me.
drop off at the end of sentences. So,
Right.
but it's fun. Why not drop off at the end of the sentence?
I don't know.
Why not?
But I think we're running a little long talking
We
about
are talking about random stuff.
Barbershop. So
Second movie.
that's it. Yeah. So tell me how you felt about the nice
Okay,
guy.
so The Nice Guys was interesting, and we talked a little bit about this before, so I gave away a little bit of the fire. The thing about The Nice Guys is like it's like very funny and silly in some places,
Mhm.
and then it's a crime drama. So then like it gets dramatic.
Not
unfortunately.
really a crime
It's a
drama.
buddy
It's a
cop
comedy.
movie.
It's a comedy.
It's a buddy cop movie.
It's a comedy.
So that means that like there's gonna be cop activity.
Yeah, I mean there are definitely elements of drama in their intention for the
Which-
sake of the comedy, though.
This is my paragraph. So what happens is there's like super funny moments, and then like ish gets real, like
Mhm.
unpredictably real, and so it's like you're laughing, and then you're like, oh my gosh, did that dude just seriously like just die like really dramatically right now? Did someone just
I remember
seriously
that
just get
part.
shot at close range? Like. So one of the things was about the movie, it was a little bit off-putting to me because it would like bounce. It was like a serious pendulum. It's like, it's so funny, so silly. And then like something like quite serious would happen, and I wanted a moment to recover from close gunshot wounds, you know, like
Right.
people being choked or their necks broken,
Right.
or like going off of a building and splatting onto like the ground,
That's
like
awesome.
10 stories later.
Yeah.
So,
Crazy.
so it's definitely not my style of comedy, but it's also a rated R comedy. And like in general,
Right.
like I'm usually like a PG-13 comedy person. I
Right.
think the last rated R comedy that I made it through without being like, oh my god, I would never watch this again is Bridesmaids. That's the only
Yeah,
one I can think of
right.
offhand where I'd be like, oh, I could watch that again.
Now, it was rated R for violence and language, right? I mean, there wasn't...
Probably language too, and probably situations, and probably
remember any
violence,
situational.
and probably situations.
I
No,
mean,
I don't know.
I don't remember situational things in there. but
I don't know. Yeah, not
I think
for
it
it to
was
be
just
not to
violence
be
and
rated R,
language,
but yeah.
No, I see maybe it's a guy thing, but the absurdity of the violence was just funny. There was never a moment where I was like, oh, this was taken too far. I mean, the further they took it, the funnier it got. I mean,
See,
that scene...
that's what I'm like, what? I'm just like, oh my god, they need to stop. Like,
No,
it's too much.
that scene where the guy
much.
fell off and splats on the ground was so funny. Because what happens is Ryan Gosling's character falls off right before him, and he lands in the pool. And they fall off at the same place.
Yeah, the same place, because they're fighting.
One lands in the pool, and he lands right next to the pool and just splatters.
And splats.
And it was so funny. And I was there with three other white guys. We're all watching the movie, and we all died laughing at that part. That was hilarious.
And I'm just like, that was really gross. There's also like a dead body that gets tossed on some people's lovely dinner party.
Yeah,
like,
that was fun
That was
too.
kind of like, whatever, it's already dead. But like, just, watching people die and get killed is never funny. To me, I just am like, oh my gosh, it takes me out of the film.
Point, though. That was it was taken to the absurd for a reason, to make you laugh.
Moment of silence.
So it might just be because I'm a guy that I thought it was funny.
Maybe, and that's the thing. I was discussing it with some other. Yeah, we were all sitting there, and it was like, so it was like us and then like three other girls, and I'm explaining it to them and describing it, and all their faces are like distorted. They're just like, that sounds awful. And I'm like, thank you. Does that not sound awful? Like, that sounds awful. Like, you're like, this is so funny. They're like, oh my gosh. So I will say this. Like, I was also kind of worried for like the minor characters, like a middle school, like 13-year-old girl. The character, Ryan Gosling's character's daughter. I forgot her name. And so she's just everywhere. You know, she's a little smart kid. You know, she's growing up with just her dad. So and she's a smart girl. But I'm constantly like watching her little character, and like the mama bear in me was just really worried. I was like, she's about to be in some inappropriate photos.
Well, that was you're supposed to be worried about her, but not like actually worried. You're supposed to be like, Ryan Gosling isn't doing a great job of being a dad, but this is funny. Like, it's gonna be really funny if she's in these scenarios, and if
I guess.
Okay, maybe it was rated R when she was at that party and she was watching.
Right. She was hanging out with people who work in adult films.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's about to be butt naked somewhere. I do not know what is going on. I was like, I can't.
She wasn't.
She was not, but I was like in the back of my head, I was like, this could go anywhere. This could go many places that are not cool. But yeah, it was very interesting.
For comedy's sake still. I mean, it was all to be funny.
It was. And I guess my brain was just like, it's just going places I wouldn't predict, so I was just not sure.
Right.
And perhaps it was giving me a little bit of like mama bear anxiety. I was like, I'm so worried for her. I hope no one else gets killed in front of her. Yeah, but it was interesting too, because then when the little girl and some guy's about to get choked to death for like the whatever time in the film, and she's like, you don't have to kill him.
Right.
And then the guy doesn't get killed, and I was like, thank you for saying it, because someone had to. Like,
this movie was clearly
every
made
single
by a
person does not have to be killed, you know.
Yeah.
So, but no, there were definitely funny parts. Like, it was just ridiculous. Like, some of the stuff that happened was absolutely ridiculous. Like, Ryan Gosling's character was completely incompetent.
Which was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a buddy cop, but that's
the
thing, because the last film I'd see, because that's a genre that happens all the time. I think it was
absolutely.
The heist with like Sandra Bullock and what's her face. Like, you have the serious cop.
Is that Melissa McCarthy?
Yeah, that's right. Is it The Heat?
It's called The Heat. Yeah.
Oh, did she do a movie called The Heist? Did I make
Maybe,
that up?
I don't know.
Okay.
But the one with Melissa McCarthy and Sandra Bullock is The Heat.
The Heat, thank you. The other H word. Okay. So, but it's just, you know, and then what was it, the Rush Hour films? You know, you have one serious cop, one bumbling cop.
And then the other guys, Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, they did one? Okay.
That was really good. It might be my favorite of the bumbling buddy cop movies.
Okay.
But
so I think that's what it would mean with like Rush Hour. Those are all PG-13s. The violence is only, you know, so I think it's part of it. It's just, it was a little bit too much of like a pendulum for me. It was a little too extreme for me.
Gotcha.
But it was interesting because I was saying like my viewing experience was interesting because the movie's been out for like a while, and I went to like a pretty discounted theater, and so there weren't many people there, and then they were all black as well. So it was interesting because I was like, oh, this film is like super white.
It's pretty super white.
Yeah, and then like, and it was just funny also.
70s,
and it takes place in the 70s, and so I was like, oh look, I remember those days. Kind of, no, actually it was a little bit before I remember.
Yeah.
But it was just funny because it was just interesting to see. And then there's just one lady that just found certain parts where I was like, oh, was it really that funny? And she was dying. So like, I forget exactly what, but it was some, you know, kind of joke that was like a little bit sexual or whatever. And she was just like dead. Like the scene is over, they moved on. She's still like, I'm like, seriously.
Cackling over there.
Yeah, it was just crazy because the stuff I thought was funny. I guess I'm a little bit more of like watching Ryan Gosling tumble down a hill and still trying to holler at a girl who's up the hill. Like, that made me laugh. I was like, that is the hottest mess I've recently seen. Like, he was like, hey, like, no, you're done. There's nothing you can say after tumbling and practically hitting a tree. Like, it's over. You have no game. So,
oh no, Ryan Gosling spits game always.
Yeah, that was funny too. And then
he always succeeds too, though.
Does he in all his other movies? Is that how it works?
Yeah,
okay.
It's Ryan Gosling.
I wouldn't really know. Yeah. I think the last Ryan Gosling film I remember watching was Lars and the Real Girl, and that was like 100 years ago, and that was sad. Because he's spitting game to a doll. He's spitting game to a doll, so I don't really know how he does. But it was also funny when he's trying to holler at the girl with the black girl with the afro, and she's trying to kill him. And he was like, this is not really her.
The whole time,
It's not really you.
He's just blinded by
like,
his
it's
love.
like, are you serious?
Yeah, right. And Russell Crowe's like, you're an idiot.
Yeah, you're really
You're
stupid.
an idiot. You're going to get yourself killed.
Yeah.
For being an idiot.
Yeah, so there were a lot of just really surprising little moments where it was like, because in that same scene where the girl throws the coffee on her, she's like, why'd you throw cold coffee on me? And I was like, oh my gosh. So it actually reminded me that type of humor was like unpredictable, those kind of actions.
Yeah.
That comedy actually reminded me, it was retro. It reminded me of like the old movie Airplane. If you ever watch those old comedies.
It's on Mom's favorite movie, so I've seen Airplane plenty of
It's ridiculous. Like, it's just stuff you're like not even, you don't see it coming because it's so off the wall. Like completely off the wall. So I mean, that kind of humor is super funny.
I mean, it's coming around again. It is in right now.
Yeah.
Andrew Tribeca, which is a TV show that just came out, is very much in that vein. It's just absurd the entire time.
Yeah.
So.
And it feels kind of, I mean, to me that's sort of British in a way, like that sense of like off.
Yeah, I guess
sort
so.
of.
Right.
Some of it's wordy, but some of it's physical. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. So the comedy portions were really funny. I just was like not finding the humor in the splatting and cracking
and that movie was absolutely geared for males.
Oh, totally.
Like, males were the audience. In that
Totally.
Movie. So we all, I'm speaking collectively for the entire male population, we loved it.
And that one lady who was just like, ah!
And that one lady.
Like, really now? Because I would be like, auntie, really? Like, are you? Because she was middle-aged, you know, she was just, or maybe she had a little drink before she came in, you know, it makes you real happy when you have a little drink.
That's what you do.
Yeah, you get a little drink, and you bring your own candy. That's what we do at those theaters. So it's interesting, I'm thinking, and then that was the movie poster. I was like, yo, Ryan Gosling looks like Ben in that poster. Like, that's literally what I thought when I saw that. So, in that particular poster, because I've seen him before, and I've seen you before, and I did not make any sort of connection. Yeah, I'm that person though. Like, Rob will just not notice
22
stuff.
times.
So, the 22nd?
22nd time I've been compared to Ryan Gosling.
Okay, good.
I keep a tally.
Just the 22nd.
Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't keep that tally?
I guess, yeah. He's a
I
guy.
guess you wouldn't keep that tally.
No,
oh, you look like Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Like,
I probably would though, because I'd be like, WTF.
Like, one time in my life, this one time this person compared me to Ryan Gosling.
Right, I'd be like, WTF, what are you saying? That's interesting though. Yeah. Ryan's pretty popular, so.
It's true. He's a really talented actor.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
All right, well.
Those are cool movies. I think next time, next episode, we're gonna.
We might do like a director face-off, right?
Yeah, Baz Luhrmann and Wes Anderson.
Yeah, one of my favorite
Those
directors.
Those are both white people, but
they are.
But
their
very
styles
different
are
type
super
of
different.
And I can't. I have very low tolerance for Baz Luhrmann.
Oh, you
Much
won't learn.
to my fiance's
you won't
chagrin,
learn.
because Moulin Rouge is like her favorite movie.
You won't
learn.
learn.
I watched it and didn't know what was happening. I was like, why is this?
I actually don't really care for Moulin Rouge.
So we'll see. So I think I'm gonna watch Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
If you watch a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah.
Choosing Fantastic Mr. Fox.
That doesn't even sound
a
like
claymation movie that's
anything
so great. That's very much in my vein of humor. So.
Here we go.
But with no violence. There's no violence in the movie. Well, very, very minimal violence.
We shall see about that. We shall see, sir.
But anyway, thanks for watching this episode and comment and email us.
Give us suggestions of what we should watch.
myfriendbenpodcast@gmail.com if you have any. If those of you listening on the podcast find a way to connect with us or tweet us or Facebook us.
Yeah, look us up on Facebook.
Those links are somewhere around here if you're watching on YouTube.
Oh my gosh.
Or in the show notes if you're on.
It'll be below on YouTube or above. There's only 2 places.
I know how YouTube works. Right here. But anyway, comment and let us know how you feel about these movies, or if we're way off base and I've totally misread all of the situation. Let me know.
Okay.
And we'll get in a comment, fight about it.
Sounds like a plan.
Which is so YouTube.